To finish up, just do an action interval. I'm taking one of these softballs and I'm going to kick it around like a soccer ball in honor of the World Cup, FIFA World Cup, currently taking place in the United States. Hope you enjoyed this video and look forward to seeing you next time. I like to do my abdominal work on a platform, which allows my feet to go below horizontal. I think give me an additional stretch and work on my hip flexors, my iliopsoas complex, and removes the irritation of, like, let's say when my heels hit the floor, but when I'm trying to keep them somewhat elevated. I also like to use a weight, but you can always start off just with your body weight. First, you want to make sure that your spine stays neutral. You can always put your hands in a diamond under your lower back, sacral area. Press your lower back into the pad and protect them that way for doing things such as leg lifts. So we'll go ahead and get started. This is the routine I like to use. Again, you can always do it without weight, keeping your hands under your sacrum or your hands on the side or overhead. Lots of variations. So I just start off with leg lifts. About 10 repetitions. And then a side to side. Then bring my knees and my chest together. Add a Russian twist. And a bicycle. During the workout, I like to repeat that that series 2 or 3 times, but for the video, just 1 time. These next set of exercises to improve generalized fitness, also cardiovascular health. You can always turn them into action intervals by continuing or increasing the duration or going through the set again. Start off with, I've got a couple kettlebells, going to do a farmer's carry, just jog down to the end of the room and back. And set one down and then move on to a kettlebell swing. Next, I'm going to grab a medicine ball and do medicine ball slam. I'm going to reposition my platform, do incline push-ups. going to move on to mountain climbers. I like to use these slide discs, keep my feet on the floor. You can always do traditional mountain climber and lift your feet, bring your knees up. I also like to do them on the incline. And take a break. Each of those is appropriate also to do as a Tabata, where you exercise for 20 seconds, take a 10-second rest for 8 cycles. And variety, I like to do them as that circuit during the Tabata and get through, 1 or 2 cycles. Take a break, we'll come back and we'll do some core abdominal exercise. You want to check your exertion level. Due to the speed of which we progress through each exercise with minimal rest, this actually becomes a cardiovascular routine as well as resistance training exercise. So you want to monitor your level of exertion. You might find yourself in a 7, 8, 9 level. You want to maintain about that 7, 8, so moderate intensity, but not exceeding going into these higher levels. Take a break, take this as slow as you feel comfortable with, and if you're feeling good, then just progress rapidly between each set of exercise. So moving on to lower body exercises, I've got a couple kettlebells. You can use dumbbells or just your body weight. Just first going to go into dumbbell squat. So I got my feet about shoulder width apart, my toes pointed out slightly. I want to hinge with my hips first, and then bend my knees and bring the weights down. Either to where the weights are touching the floor or my thighs are parallel to the floor. Maintaining a neutral spine. Then moving right into a Romanian deadlift. So standing up tall, the weights are in front of my thighs. I'm going to hinge my hips back first and lower the weights to where my hands are below my knees. Again, maintaining a neutral spine. It's better to always go slow on the eccentric so that you're resisting gravity. And setting down one weight, taking the other, holding it mid-chest, putting my legs out wider than shoulders. And this is a goblet squat. The wider your legs are, the more it's in this sort of sumo squat position. I'm going to go into a calf raise, grabbing my second weight, just lifting my heels up, holding for a couple counts. And bringing one leg forward. And a split squat. You want to get your front thigh close to parallel to the floor. And other side. Lunges and split squats challenge your balance and your core, so they're good to add to a regimen. Even if you're not moving heavy weights, it does improve your squat. Welcome back. I wanted to demonstrate there's a number of variations of a bent row that I do for variety, just for fun. One's called a gorilla row, where I take a couple of, I like kettlebells, you can use dumbbells as well. You go down into a squat position, lean forward, and place the weights on the floor. Reposition. And just row one at a time. And this is very important to focus on a good hard concentration at the top. Now I'm going to grab a couple of hex dumbbells. This is just a like a tabletop or kneeling one arm row. Progression on this is called a bird dog row, where you lift one leg up, and I like to row with the opposite arm. You can try rowing with the same size, although balance becomes an issue. And switch the other side. So leg up in that bird dog position. If you're really ambitious, you can put as essentially a front pull in a bird dog. And the final progression on this is a renegade row, where you go into a plank position and row the arm. You might need to give yourself a wider base. You want to avoid twisting your torso. Even with a light dumbbell, the renegade row is a very challenging exercise. Another exercise particularly useful for grip strength is the farmer's carry, which I'll do somewhat later in this program. So first exercise, I'm going to do a dumbbell shoulder press. You want to sit up tall, or you can stand up and just press up. Progression is to always add more weight. Particularly important on the lowering phase or eccentric phase to go slowly, and power up in the concentric phase. Side. Taking the same dumbbells. Do an up row. For these sessions, I'm doing very little rest between exercises and shooting for about 5 in a row. And then forward and do a bent row. You want to keep your spine neutral. Contract your muscles hard at the top, bringing those shoulder blades together. And take both hands back, palms towards the ceiling, and just do pumps. This is working the rear deltoid particular. Then can bend your elbows and you can do a kick back. You can either keep your palms facing each other or facing the ceiling. Working the triceps. Okay. Shake it out, take a little break, get a drink of water, and come right back. If you've been seeing my other videos, you know I've been focusing on the powerlifting lifts for several months. But now that it's summer, I want to add exercise that's going to increase overall athleticism and fitness, and accessory exercises for my 3 main power lifts. At 71 and being a retired medical professional, I don't really know if body recomposition, meaning gaining muscle while losing body fat, gaining muscle in general, or just trying to maintain strength is possible. The medical researchers look into things, but a lot is just sort of speculative at this point, particularly for someone my age. There's hundreds of supplements the person could possibly take. Being supplements, they're not seen with the same rigorous assessments as far as benefit, risk, adverse long-term effects, etc. One supplement that seems to be becoming more popular in mainstream medicine is creatine. It's been used by exercisers for a long time, several decades, and most of the adverse effects seem to be pretty limited, particularly if combined with inadequate hydration, leading to stress on the kidneys. Is it beneficial? There does seem to be some increase in strength. Not so sure on the other long-term benefits. They're still being studied. So to go to this routine I'm going to start doing, this is more in line with sort of a traditional silver sneakers boom muscle. One important muscle group that's often neglected for us seniors is our grip strength. So to demonstrate some different exercises to improve grip strength, I'm going to start with a towel pull. This is a traditional physical therapist exercise to regain function in your hands and forearms. And all you do is you squeeze the towel and drag it towards you. I'd recommend giving a good hard squeeze at the end of each pull. And the goal is to get the towel completely up to your hands. As more of the towel gets enclosed in your hands, it becomes harder to squeeze. You're still pulling with your fingers. You can do both finger and hand simultaneously or alternate. For me, at this point, the towel is bigger than what I can actually comfortably grip. So, a different exercise, I can grab some rolled up hand towels and just grip, hold for an isometric interval, maybe 5 to 10 seconds, and release. Rest a few seconds and repeat. Release. Usually continue this maybe 5 to 10 repetitions. And the third way is to take one of these squishy balls. Same idea. Grip, hold strong. While you're doing this, you can also focus on your shoulder blades. Make sure that you're bringing them down and together, because if you're doing a sufficiently hard grip, you'll notice that you're contracting muscles going all the way up to the shoulders and upper back. Strong grip is especially important in our activities of daily living, for picking up items, opening jars, turning door handles, etc. In powerlifting, very important for the deadlift, because that's one of the limiting factors for many lifters is they just don't have a strong enough grip to handle a weight that their body could actually move. Okay. Toss those off to the side. And to demonstrate them as a deadlift, bars up and increase that routine, focus, concentration, tightening everything, pushing off the floor. I find those to be a little more difficult than using a hex bar for deadlift. I think due to being two separate implements, you're increasing instability. As I've mentioned earlier, instability helps increase a strength, particularly in stabilizing muscles. So I think I'll add this to my deadlift routine and see how it goes. By the time I got back to the gym, they had installed these new bars, which looked like they might be useful for farmer's carry or deadlift variation. These particular bars I weighed 16 pounds each, so they look like they could be much heavier. I'll have to go online to see what their capacity is as far as weight, but at this point they have about 140 pounds on each side. I wanted to demonstrate a couple techniques to get a good range of motion for the deadlift or other exercises. Again, where you're stressing your weak points or your sticking points, but also getting a full exercise for the areas where you were strong. What I've set up here, I don't have this available at my usual facility. This is my basement, where I have my Olympic bar with a couple weights, and then I've draped these chains over them. They're truck chains, each one weighs 20 pounds or so. So I got 2 on each side, added 80 pounds. As you lift the bar, more of the chain gets lifted with it, increasing the weight that you're lifting. The chains that are resting on the floor don't contribute to the weight. Ideally, as you get up in the full range of motion, you've lifted the chain completely off the floor. And let's see if we can demonstrate this. Sometimes the chains unravel, and so if they start to, I'll just set the weight down. A similar technique is to take one of these thick bands and attach it to the bar as well. To do a deadlift, I'd lower it down to this in between support. And same thing, when it's stretched, it makes the relative weight of the bar less, but as you lift higher, less stretch on the band, it takes away that additional support. One last comment on lifting these heavy weights at your best range of motion is to improve your confidence. I think when you first take the bar, like in a squat, off the rack, and it feels quite heavy, you can lack confidence that you can get through the lift. So by practicing with these weights that are going to be beyond what you could do the full range of motion with. You're training your nervous system, but also training your mind in that you can carry this weight. One aspect of using the free weights at these reduced range of motion but heavier weights is the concept of instability. Studies have shown that a person gains more strength by doing somewhat unstable lifts. So for both the bench press and the squat, I like to use the free weights, but with the safety bars and other protective measures as I'm going through those range of motion. For bench press, I usually do the heavier lifts on a Smith machine, which has removed some of that instability. One other option is to use a cable press, which again has the benefit of being safe. You can always just let go of the weight and the weights will drop back to their stack without falling on the floor or potential injury. But it does add a component of instability. It's important to focus on your pre-lift routine, getting your focused mind, bracing, contracting all your muscles, and going through a few repetitions, 3 to 5 lifts with this weight. As with the deadlift, I'll progress to increase weight, add my belt for back protection, and see if I can get these muscles working. So moving on to squat at my stronger range of motion, which is really from my knees at about a 45-degree angle up to full lockout. I've switched to this safety squat bar. Again, puts the weight a little bit better over my upper back trapezius, some weights, and then I set the safety bars pretty high, so as I go up in weight on trying to improve my upper limit of movement, I have these set in case I lose control and can just set the bar there. So I'm going to move on to my powerlifting exercises to work on my areas where I have strength to stimulate my neuromuscular system as well as building some strength. For me, on deadlift, it's where I get the bar above mid shin height and up to the lockout. So starting off with a fairly heavy weight, going to work through this in a move. It's similar to a Romanian deadlift, although starting with the weight at the lower range of motion. As I move into heavier weights, I'll add a belt and some wrist supports, which I think help minimize injury, but I also like to practice, or at least warm up, without those accessories to teach myself proper bracing and focus, and not become reliant on those accessories. For my first lifts, I do an overhand grip. As it gets heavier, I'll switch to a mixed grip with which keeps the bar from rolling. Another benefit of lifting heavier weights in this range of motion also works on grip strength, which is very important and essential for mastering the power lifts. Just a couple more hints on the wall sit. For me, I like to place a couple kettlebells on the outside where I can put my hands, which helps me get up out of that activity. And a progression is to go to the one-legged wall sit. So for this, you get down in your position, nice secure base, and then you're going to move one leg out and see if I can lift that leg just off the floor. I find that very difficult. I can only hold that for a few seconds, so I've got something to work on with that. So after having done a sufficient warm-up, 10 minutes or so of maybe some light cardio activity, some range of motion, the wall sit, you have a strong wall to lean against, your feet out far enough to where when you get down in position, your shins are essentially parallel to the wall, perpendicular to the floor. Try and get your knees at about 90 degrees and just sit here for a certain length of time. I want to start off with 10, 15, 20 seconds, feeling the muscles working, and then work your way back up. So, I find the wall sit to be quite challenging, and working on trying to get somewhere up around 90 seconds on the wall sit. You can repeat it maybe 2 or 3 times in a session and then move on to some other activity. Welcome to this edition of Silver Sneakers Boom Muscle. Last week I focused on some exercises to improve strength through the sticking point or the weakest part of our particular powerlifting maneuvers. This week I'm going to work a little bit more on how to improve the strength in the parts of the lift where you actually are fairly strong. Again, if you're only lifting to get through the sticking point, you're not sufficiently exercising the neuromuscular connection or the muscular strength in those range of motion where you are significantly stronger. I did forget last week on the squat, a very useful isometric exercise is the wall sit.